All right, let's get rolling. All right, good morning and or afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's KAMIND webinar, Keep Your Passwords Safe. My name's Mike Klass. I'm an account manager here at KAMIND IT. Before we get rolling today, a few housekeeping items. There will be time for questions and answers at the end today. So if you can keep your microphone on mute during the presentation, that would be excellent. With many of us still working from home, we'd like to eliminate all background distraction noises. If you have any questions mid-presentation, please feel free to use the chat functionality or the raise hand icon, and we'll weave your questions into the presentation best we can. This is important. We will be recording today's webinar, so if you're uncomfortable with that, now would be your opportunity to opt out. Now with that out of the way, let's get down to business. So what we're doing today is we're talking about Keeper Password Manager online service. Some questions you might have about Keeper that will hopefully be answered in today's webinar. Why Keeper as a password manager is definitely the best to breed. Has Keeper ever been breached as a password manager organization? And I get this question a lot. Does Keeper offer any migration tools to help you move over from another password manager, to Keepers?
Yep.
So
over that.
So our guest speaker today is Mr. Pedro Alforque. A few fun facts about Mr. Alforque. He's a University of California at Berkeley graduate. He's married and has a beautiful 9-month-old daughter. He has worked for organizations such as Oracle and Visa previously, and he loves warm places like Hawaii, which he'll be vacationing at very soon. So please sit back and relax, and let's hear our favorite Keeper MSP partner rep, Pedro. Pedro, please take it away.
Thank you. Forever our favorite and only, and I'm dressed in Hawaii stuff already because I love it so much. All right, Mike, just confirming you can see the screen with both of our company's logos on it.
Sir.
All right, so today I'll be going over what Keeper Security does. We've been partnered with KAMIND for quite a while now, a couple of years now. Keeper itself does a lot in cybersecurity. So we do password management, we have a data vault. We also do secrets management, which is more technical stuff we won't go over today. Today's focus is really going to be password management and how it can help you as a user, how it can help your organization, why you should and probably have to do it to secure your company and your own things. And we'll go from there. So as Mike said, feel free to put questions in the chat and we'll get this rolling. Let's go back to my slides and go to the next one. All right, so about Keeper, we've been around for a long time. I know when we're talking about having an organization protect your resources, your passwords, your records, you probably want something that is known to be secure. We've never been breached. I'll go over some of our security audits that we go through as a company. But just a little bit more, we've been published in 21 languages. We have over 2 million end users. Some of those are businesses users, and some of those are consumers, just people who get Keeper from the App Store. So a lot of people have been using Keeper for a very long time. It's very secure. You can look at all of our ratings on the App Store, on the Google Play Store, and just hear from some of the companies that use Keeper. It's very well known and very trustworthy. So the main reason we're doing this webinar today is because there are still many companies and users that may not be protecting their company's resources and passwords to work apps as securely as they can or should be. So 81% of breaches are related to insecure passwords, maybe someone putting a password in a place it shouldn't be, like an insecure spreadsheet or under a table or on the laptop itself. There's physical breaches, there's cyber breaches, and a lot of the root to it is passwords and password management, and that's one of the things that Keeper can help with. And so it is the number one thing in cybersecurity. That password management is really where it all begins, and that for you as the end user, that's where you can play your part in protecting your company. And so one of the main problems for companies is that there's no visibility, there's no control about what kind of passwords are employees using. Not to say that they should see anything, but companies need to understand how secure is the weakest link. If someone's putting password 123 to one of the most important applications in the company because it houses other secrets, it's not a really great idea or something that's going to keep your company secure. So that's the problem that Keeper addresses, is giving companies and users more control and security over their passwords. Second problem is when you have something really secure, sometimes it gets less usable. And so with Keeper, bridging the gap, the main point of Keeper is to make the company and the users more secure, while also giving you a tool that's very easy to use, very easy on the eyes, and should help you keep things organized, and you won't be having to put passwords on a spreadsheet, or you won't even have to think of what password to make for this new application, because Keeper is going to automate a lot of that process. And so, again, Keeper itself is a full cybersecurity platform, but today we'll be talking about password management, how you can do things like share passwords, and just as an admin for a company or as an owner, just get more understanding of what people are doing to keep the company safe, or if they're not doing a good job of that, what can be done to improve it. Earlier, I talked about some of the audits that Keeper goes through as a company to just make sure that third parties are auditing us. We were the first to obtain SOC 2 Type 2 and ISO in tandem as a password management company. And currently we are both FIPS validated and FedRAMP moderate approved. So we go through a lot of audits as a company. And so when you're looking at different tools to secure your password or passwords, you do want something that is verified, audited a lot, and trustworthy. So that's some of the things that these are some of the certifications we've achieved as a company. All right, so we do have a security page. So if you have any questions about our encryption model, we lay everything out, how everything works. We put our uptime out there, and the same set of audits that we go through, the certificates are all listed on our security page. So if you are curious to dive in deeper, our security page is one of the more, actually, if you compare it to other companies that deal with security, this is a very long page because we do lay it out for everyone to see and understand how we're keeping things secure. All right, so if you're a user of Keeper, so let's just say you start using Keeper, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have it either on the desktop. If you have non-web applications, you can use Keeper there, whether it's Windows, Mac, or Linux. It works pretty much on any device. If you have any web browser, Chrome, Firefox, Brave, Keeper works on everything. We have Opera. I'm not sure if many people are still using that, but we do have that. So you're pretty covered across the board in terms of different ways to access your Keeper password manager. And then on mobile, we were actually born on mobile as a very secure consumer tool. Works really well. So if you can see here, you have a banking app, you have other applications that might be relevant for work. It's very easy on the eyes and very easy to use on, again, every device. So first thing is make sure you have Keeper on your devices. Second thing is once you have a login and you were invited by an admin for your company, you will be able to log in using our browser extension. I'm on Chrome. That's what this demo will be on today. And yeah, you will have a login. You put your username. And if you have two-factor with Keeper, this is something that makes it sort of unique. We actually ask for the second factor first. So if anybody on this call actually tried to actually hack me, they would need to present the two-factor before they can even guess my Keeper Vault master password. So a lot of systems do username, password. I'm not good at multitasking. Let me type this in slowly. There we go. A lot of companies do username, password, and then 2FA. We ask for the second factor first, so it's very hard for an actor to do a brute force attack into your data vault. So when you're using Keeper, the first thing you'll want to do is go into your settings if it's the first time. There's typically an import wizard, but if you're coming from another system, we can import from another web browser that might be housing your passwords today. Not a great idea to have it on a browser. They're subject to more attacks that are more mainstream, might not have 2FA on it. If you're coming from another password manager, very easy. Just follow the instructions. And yes, in some cases, you just put the credentials of the last password manager into our desktop tool and everything will funnel in. So if you have shared folders, if you have different record types, and Keeper can support a lot of different record types. So whether it's a login itself or whether it's a bank account, do be aware that Keeper supports a lot of different types of information. Even myself, just outside of work, I put my ID card in here in case I forget it at home and I'm driving, just in case, I do have a copy and they can verify who I am. So that's in my vault. But if there's a type of record that you don't see in here, that you want to put in Keeper, like a type of certain type of data, you can actually look through these canned pre-canned sets of records, or you can actually create your own type of record. So, if you had to add like a PIN code to something, or a two-factor code, or a security question and answer, Keeper is extremely flexible in terms of what kind of data you can put in there. So going back to the vault, though, let me just show you how all the basics works. So something like Dropbox, let's just say I use Dropbox every day for my company. I can have a Dropbox record. You'll see my username. You'll see my password is extremely complex. That's really the whole point of this. It's this random string of text that I don't even know. And the reason for this, the reason you want your password to be like that is because in today's world, if you have a password that is, let's just say 7 characters, 8 characters, and they're all lowercase, bad actors can use a tool and actually crack your password in under X amount of days or hours, depending on how weak your password is. So the longer your password is, the more difficult it becomes for any bad actor to use a tool to simply find out what your password is. So as you can see here, this is like at least 100 characters, I'm sure. That's the type of passwords you want for most things outside of your main password to get into Keeper, which again is protected by two-factor. And as a company, you can make it so that people can only log into Keeper in certain IP ranges. You can make it so that people have to log out after X amount of time and re-log in. There's a lot of mechanisms to make sure that you are who you are. And once you get into Keeper, you do have secure passwords. So I'm just going to show you, if I go to Dropbox.com, and again, you can add things like a tag, but the website is here, the long password is here, my username is there. It's going to automatically, when I'm in Dropbox, put in my username, put in my password, which is very long, but I don't need to know it. And then if I have a two-factor code, it can automatically fill it in, or I can right-click and have Keeper put that in for me. So just be aware of that. Username, password, two-factor code. Keeper can do so much more than just put in your credentials. So now that I'm here, let's just say that maybe I imported Dropbox.com and my password was something like password123. Not a great idea. In fact, in my security audit, I would be able to see if I did have a weak password and that I should change it. Or even worse, with Breachwatch, if I had a password that has been compromised on the dark web, maybe like a public breach that is well known, it'll show up there, and I should definitely change my password. So if I go to my settings for Dropbox, I have my extension running for Keeper on Chrome again, and I go to security, I change my password. Keeper is going to know that typically, or I can manually pull this up. So I can click on the lock, say I'm trying to change my password. Here's an example where I'm locked because this is a shared password, but if I wanted to, Keeper can run me through a wizard and change my password to another unique, very long string of text. So that is what you'd want to do with Keeper, is make sure that if the password is weak, it's not strong, you're using the tool to run and change the password. So far we've covered that you can make very secure records with Keeper. You can have it change the password into something more complex. Again, that's very complex. And then we have a record history. So every time I've actually changed my password, you can see that it is reflected here. And I've changed my password on this, and I've had this record for over 2 years. So in day one, this was my original password. I'm not going to show it, but the record looked very different from what it is today, which now it has a very long password, 2FA code, and any other information that I want on it. So that's pretty much it for the ability of Keeper to house records and passwords. But if needed, we also have sharing. So we have records, you can drag it into a shared folder. And if you have a group of users, you can actually add an entire group of people into a shared folder. So let's just say the whole company or the social media team or the sales team or marketing needs access. You can add teams into a shared folder and give the teams different permissions depending on what kind of access they may or may not need. All right, so we went through records. We actually went through the security audit and breach watch. So feel free to add some questions in the chat that we can cover after about the user experience. But now I'm going to cover the admin experience and what you can do as an administrator of Keeper. So if you're an admin, you'll see admin console. And usually the admin is maybe the owner of a company or maybe the IT person of a company that may be working with our partner KAMIND. And anyone that is an admin will have access to see not your passwords, but the password hygiene of the company. So if people are using Keeper, you'll see that activity as an admin. You'll see the overall strength of the passwords as a company. So if you get Keeper and you're still putting password 123 and it's in Keeper, it will be known that you may not be using the best passwords. And if anyone in the company has passwords that have been compromised, it will also be known that, hey, it looks like there's 21 records that are already floating around in the dark web, meaning it makes that application or whatever it's giving access to more at risk. And so companies generally want a good security score, and keep this at a very minimal or even zero number would be ideal. From the admin tab, you can see that we have different users. There's 2 users in here. If your organization has other tools like single sign-on, Microsoft Azure, you can log into Keeper using those existing systems. So you won't need another new username and password for Keeper. You just need to log in using an existing system, which is possible. So lots of different options with Keeper. That's one of our strengths. And once the users are in, every time you have a user or with any user, you could tie to a role. So let's just say the company has a contractor. So I can add a user to this contractor role, and it's going to be up to me if they have a master password, how complex should it be? Is the user allowed to work offline? Which is a good idea to turn this on if it's like if they're on a shared resource or device. Does the user need a certain level of complexity for things like gmail.com? How strong is the password that Keeper will generate be? So there's a lot of things users can do, admin users can do, to make sure that every user in the company is using this in a very secure way. And then we have transfer account. So if you have someone that is leaving the company, it is possible, and the user will know about this, to have that user's data, if they're just getting offboarded, transferred to another user so that they can continue doing their job. And then with the teams, again, I showed that earlier, but with a shared folder, you can have a group of people access an entire folder, and maybe you want the group to be read-only so they can't edit things. You can make it so that they cannot reshare what has been shared to them, the group, I mean. And you can even make it so that users cannot see the passwords in a shared folder very easily, but they can actually still use the password. So from a company perspective, again, there is a lot of control here. Everybody's general password hygiene is available. Again, I can't see these people's passwords, but I know if anybody might need more work on the password management side, if anybody has passwords that have been compromised, and if they're ignoring those warnings, I will know that. And then in terms of reporting and alerts, I have a pretty good understanding of what's happening. So in a scenario where, let's just say, somebody else that isn't me try to log in, and maybe they're in a location that isn't normal. So I'm actually in Roseville, California. That's correct. If it's somebody else try to log in as me, the admin or the company would be able to see that there's another location. So if it was maybe someone on the East Coast, someone outside of the country, and I get locked out, or the system lets me know that I've been trying to put in my password too many times, the system will actually say this user was actually in another place on this device, and this is the activities they did as trying to be that user. So as a company, the visibility in terms of who's doing what and is it actually someone in our company, that dramatically improves. And beyond the reports, these are all reports, you can even get alerts. So if somebody is adding a new password that has been compromised, um, the admin can get an email or a text message or even let's say a Microsoft Teams message saying, hey, this user just added a new password that is not very good, or maybe somebody is putting in the wrong password a bunch of times. Almost everything that a user does can be logged and tracked in Keeper for compliance reasons, or just to make sure that we're aware of what's happening. But to summarize, that's pretty much it. We have a very user-friendly interface. It works pretty much on any device, mobile, any web browser, on the desktop. And for companies, what makes Keeper great is its ability to have role-based enforcements, reports, and just in general, a security audit to make sure that users aren't using something like 123 as their password, right? Because again, if anyone has weak passwords, it is putting the user and the company at risk, because those are the ones that tend to be reachable and easier for bad actors to access. But that's pretty much it for the actual presentation of Keeper. So I'll turn it back to you, Mike, and maybe we can answer some questions.
Yeah, actually, while Pedro's in demo mode here, if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute, or you can type them in the chat area. But I was thinking Pedro could probably just show you the answer to your question while he's in the demo mode. So Terry, I know you typed in a question there. I think Matt answered your question. Thank you.
Hey, Pedro, why don't you show the import model, how you actually would go do it if you actually went through trying to import from different sources, like in this case, LastPass. I think Terry was after trying to import a single folder.
Yeah, so let me go to settings, import, and then so with something like LastPass, there's a variety of ways to do it. So let me see if I could view the instructions. So one way is a little bit more manual. You can have it LastPass spit out basically like a spreadsheet or a CSV file. You could dice that one up in a way where there's certain things get omitted before getting imported to Keeper. I would say if you don't want to get the whole thing across as much as possible, maybe you have some certain edits you want before it gets to Keeper, which would make sense. I would recommend following the export from the web vault. That's the most or more manual way to do it. If it's a scenario where I'm just trying to get out of the system and put everything into Keeper in one go, that's where you would use the automated desktop tool, which I do have it here. I don't know how much I can show, but should be in the settings. So I don't have an actual account anymore to run through it, but yeah, you would basically just type in your LastPass email and master password. In the Keeper desktop tool, it will ask for a 2FA if you have that on LastPass, and then it would just do everything automated as it says. and everything should come across. I mean, there may be like a couple things that I'm not sure if it'll translate apples to apples Keeper, but most things should come from LastPass pretty easily and show up. If for whatever reason you need more help, maybe you want to get more customized in what you're doing in the import process, I'm sure KAMIND can help, or Keeper's support team could probably pitch in some ideas as well if needed.
So Pedro, I got a question probably on a few people's mind. If you buy a Keeper Enterprise Plus license, does that protect you on both your laptop and your cell phone?
Yeah, absolutely. So every version of Keeper will actually allow you to use it on all the devices, and so that's a good idea. Yeah.
All right, cool. Anybody else have a question? If so, please feel free to unmute and speak up.
Yeah, Mike, I'm sorry, Pedro. My question is regarding computer resources. How much resources are being used by software when you do this kind of thing? You know, as I'm using my
Sure.
computer, I'm wondering how much memory, where is this going?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact numbers of like how much memory it's taking, but all versions of Keeper are extremely light, and typically, I mean, we have millions of users, thousands of business users. Typically, never get support cases about it hogging up too much memory. So it's not really an issue that I see, but I don't know the exact numbers of how much memory it consumes when it's being used.
Good
Thank
question, David.
That is a good question.
Anybody else? Please feel free to speak up.
Well, while everyone's thinking, I just wanted to show as well, if you do use Keeper for business, you also do get a complimentary family license available. So me, myself, I use Keeper for work, obviously, because I work here, but even outside of work, to organize all my bills and other things in my life, like I showed earlier, my ID, having a copy of my passport digitally, everybody gets a complimentary family license, which is fully loaded with storage and the Breach Watch for your personal stuff. None of this stuff can ever be seen or taken by an admin. This is just totally a giveaway from Keeper if you have the business version. So you do have the option to put a personal email and help organize and secure your non-work items. So just want to throw that out there.
So Pedro, I heard rumor you might have something called a government version. What's that about?
Never heard of that. What version?
Government?
Oh, government.
Oh, government. Okay, sorry. There's
Correct.
a
So
typo there.
yeah, so Keeper, obviously we are audited highly by the government. We do have Keeper available on a government cloud. This will be available through our partners like KAMIND very soon as well. We'll have to get more details on that, but that is something that is possible, and it is something that Keeper developed for like government contracts, government entities, so that it's on a more, well, I don't know how much more secure the cloud can get, but it has very specific standards that it abides by, and that's what those users are on, and it's separate from our normal cloud. So I think more details on that will come out as we go, but yeah, just at a high level, it is for that purpose.
Great, thanks.
How soon? Sorry, go ahead, Mike. I was going to ask a question about it.
Go for it, David.
Yeah. How soon would that be available? And we talk about like GCC, government, Microsoft kind of thing. If I'm using Microsoft products for government work, will that be tied to it? Maybe. If you say government cloud, that must be Azure cloud.
Yeah, so it's a little bit out of my scope. I deal with just the normal non-government stuff. We do have like a government team, and we will have more details on that later. So I don't really have much for you today, just that it is coming likely within months, I would say. I mean, probably supposedly yesterday, but sooner than later.
Hey, but as we find out more about that, I'll be sure to let you know.
Yeah, please. Thank you. I was going to say that. I'm sure you will. Thank you. Yeah, please.
No problem. All right, well, while Pedro's still in demo mode here, any other questions he might be able to answer for you guys?
Can you do a combination of password? Can I use Keeper for, like can I get authenticated partially, through my phone or something? Can I do like combination of both? Will I get the second level into my own device, like another device I have with me? From
Are you
that whatever site. Let's say I want to log into somewhere, and they have two-level authentication. The first level goes through your system. The second level goes straight to my phone.
Oh, are you saying can you use Keeper like sort of like as a 2FA for specific sites?
Yeah.
I would say the extent of that is, I mean, we partner with companies that do things like that, but the extent of it is just like with the Dropbox, we can house the second factor to a website that would typically go in like, let's say, Google Authenticator, but have it in Keeper instead. But I don't believe it does it the way you're describing. I think that might be like a different type of tool to add another layer of 2FA to a specific site. But hopefully I understood that right.
What I meant is like the second level authentication is two factor. The second factor will be, I guess you got to go back to the site you're trying to get into and send the code to me. But seems to me the answer is no. I would think.
Well, so in this example, it's you go into Dropbox, and typically this two-factor code would go in a separate device, but you could build it into Keeper, which has 2FA. So I'm not sure if that's addressing your question exactly, but maybe I am understanding it, maybe I'm not. But does that help bring clarity?
Is that code coming from that website, not from Keeper? The second factor for signing up, for
Yes.
logging in, is coming from the other side, from the site I'm getting into, not
Correct.
Keeper.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct,
that's fine.
yeah.
That's the answer. Thank you.
Yeah. And the purpose of putting it there would be, let's just say I wanted to share this with Mike and Sean here. If I'm out of the office and we're all sharing this, nobody has to call me while I'm out of the office sick to get this code on my device. I can temporarily share it with everybody so that I've given you my access and you don't have to call me for the two-factor code, because I'm trusting you because you're another Keeper user and you need two-factor to get into your Keeper. So this is an example of why we have that two-factor code. But yeah, it adds convenience for sure.
So Pedro, we do have a question from the audience. Chaz, please feel free to unmute and ask away.
Hey, Pedro, I'm sorry if you had already answered this question, but
No worries.
a functionality that I've been wanting for a little bit with Keeper is, are you guys partnering with other companies to allow password resets through the Keeper application? Is that something that you guys are planning on deploying in the future? Because I know that would be a pretty powerful tool. I don't know if anyone's ever had their password here has had their password leaked out onto the internet before, but when it happens and you have to manually change your password on several accounts, it can be quite frustrating. Not that
I see.
people should be
Are you
reusing their passwords, but yeah.
got it? I'm saying you're saying, just so I have it right, would there be a way in the future for Keeper maybe to do like en masse like rotation of existing passwords sort of deal?
Well, more like natively in the Keeper app, if you guys like partnered with, like, let's say Google to reset your Gmail password or your through the Keeper app. Yeah, are you guys
I
making
see.
plans for anything like that, or is that something you're working on? Can you talk about it?
I would say with that type of thing, we would just recommend using the like the change password mechanism like per site. I don't have it permissions on my Dropbox, but that is something that you can do. Just kind of, I mean, it is using Keeper, so I'm not sure if that's different from what you're envisioning. Like, do you mean change the password? Like, let's say I'm on Dropbox, you would want a way that I can change the password to Dropbox within this interface rather than having to use this extension version?
Yeah, So instead of having
it.
to go to the Dropbox website within the
Mm.
application, changing the password for my Dropbox account.
Got it. So it's a little bit more seamless, basically.
Yeah.
I haven't heard much about any plans for that. I would say that would probably require deeper access because there's a lot of things with going to the actual website and having the tool after you're there and have authenticated yourself, do it. Yeah, it's probably might be a technical limitation. It's just my guess. I haven't heard of any plans to embed it in here. Maybe possible in the future. I'd have to check if that's on some kind of roadmap. But from what I know currently today, no, there's no plans that I know of.
Yeah, I kind of assumed it was maybe a technical limitation, but I was curious if you guys
Yeah.
had that ability.
Yeah, typically if there's something we don't or can't do, it's really related to A, security, and well, B, security, and like how the keys work and things like that, and the authentication. But yeah, I'd say it's always a battle between convenience and security, and we typically lean towards security in most cases, even though we probably could do something. Just my guess, working here for almost 4 years now, is it's probably security related. But that's not to say we'll never have it. We always work on things and implement it if we can do it securely. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, great question, Chaz. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask? If so, now would be your time to speak up. All right, not seeing any more hands up.
Good
And
questions.
nobody's unmuting. All right, anything else you'd like to throw out, Pedro?
Well, I always want to say I've probably done hundreds of these demonstrations and presentations, and for some reason, I feel like those were some of the best questions I've ever heard. I don't know what it is, but yeah,
Excellent.
good questions.
Yeah, Pedro, why don't you unshare? I'm going to share. We got an offer I want people to see.
Sure. Should be insured.
Yeah, we got it up. You guys can see that, yes? My screen.
Yes.
Yep.
So, because you guys came and sat on the Keeper webinar with us today, we'd like to offer 1 month free user trial of Keeper. All you need to do is get a hold of myself or Sean at 503-726-5933. This would be an Enterprise Plus version. It's the version we recommend. It's the version that has the MFA integrated into it. The MSP on this would be $565 per user per month. But again, we'll give you free trial for this and give you a chance to play with it, test drive it, and use it for a while. If you have any other questions, please feel free to speak up. Otherwise, we're going to give you about 20 minutes of your life back today. All right, all quiet on the front. Don't see any more hands up or anything. So again, we appreciate you guys taking your time with us today on our ongoing webinar series from KAMIND, today featuring Keeper. Thank you very much, Pedro. Great job.
Thank you.
And again, just contact myself or Sean at the number on the screen if you guys would like a free demo copy. And if you have any feedback on this webinar today, please feel free to visit www.kamind.com/feedback. We always appreciate your comments and suggestions on our feedback form, like whether today's webinar was relevant to, did you get out of it what you were looking for? Anyways, again, thank you very much for your time, and I hope the rest of your day is fantastic. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.